Hey everyone, welcome in to another daily editorial here on the KE Report. I'm getting an update from Heliostar Metals, traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol HSTR and on the OTCQX under the symbol HSTXF. I am chatting with the president and CEO, Charles Funk. Now, Charles, we're following up on a news release that came out just yesterday, February 8th. The headline says Heliostar evaluating test mining scenarios for Ana Paula in 2024. Now, the test mining scenario here sounds fairly straightforward in the sense that the company says you need to advance the underground decline, some of which has already been done by previous operators here, and then complete the test mining to process a bulk sample. Let's just start off with more details on the work that would be needed to go into this test mining scenario, please.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Corey. It has the potential to be a very big development for the company. Obviously, as we rapidly move towards the production scenario, getting your decline into the ore body is a key part of that. And so the ability to show the network at a greater scale, to be able to drill from underground, and perhaps most excitingly as a platform to drill deeper, pushing the decline in makes a lot of sense. We're also fortunate in the advanced nature of the project in that there is 400 meters of decline that the previous operator was putting in. So we can continue that decline with the permits that we have in hand and potentially direct ship ore of quite high grade that would more than cover the cost of doing it. So it's definitely worth a detailed review. We're quite advanced. We've been working on this for a number of months and think we'll look to make a decision in the next couple of months. But it's a very logical pathway in capital constrained markets to advance Ana Paula without equity dilution.
Now, whenever I talk to companies that are talking about test mining, people are always wondering, is this going to be a money-making operation? I guess that ties into just how much will this cost? We don't get any of that information from the news release. What can you tell us about the potential of this to make money for the company and how much it'll cost?
Yeah, so we're working on a number of those scenarios at the moment. We're talking, 10 to closer to 15 million ounce capex in a number of scenarios, similar amount of OPEX. But we would produce materially more gold than that. So in nearly all the scenarios we're reviewing at, we would make more money than the cost of doing this. We're not doing it with a view to putting money on the balance sheet, but that's definitely a possible outcome of this. The de-risking step is the key focus, but it's nice to know that there's enough gold there to cover this, that it really opens up the financing options.
So again, within the news release, it says that the engineering study indicates that you'll require, as you said, a little over 1,000 meters of tunnel development and 317 meters of spiral and stope development. Is there any major complexities with moving into this test mining scenario? I have to ask simply because I think we've all seen just how difficult it can be to actually get any project into even early stage mining.
So again, we're fortunate how advanced the project is. The major step is closing some of the offtake part of it, and we're having some pretty serious and detailed discussions that are advancing nicely on that front. Mining itself is pretty straightforward. It's continue the decline that had previously been underway, and we're talking about direct shipping material as a possible outcome as well. So bring it up, crush it on surface, put it on a truck, and send it either to a wharf or to potentially some surrounding mines. So the mining side of it, as overall will be the case with Ana Paula, is the most straightforward part of this and one of the attractions.
So then, Charles, it also says that you'll undertake the options here to move into this test mining situation in advance of a feasibility study. Also says that you're continuing with kind of the PEA here that is planned for the second half of this year. Is this test mining needed at all for the feasibility?
Not strictly. We think it clearly de-risks the project, which is a benefit to the feasibility, but we see two pathways in front of us. The PEA, the resource growth, we think we can grow Ana Paula over 1.5 million ounces into the feasibility study, which is the more classic pathway. And then this is a significant de-risking step, which a number of major mines have done ahead of production. I think in Mexico, most recently, Silvercrest is a great example. So we see this as a parallel path, but a significant value add for us in de-risking the project that supports. It's not a fundamental requirement of the feasibility study. It just opens up more options for the company. both from a financing perspective and a technical perspective. And that's pretty attractive to us today.
Now, what kind of additional technical information do you get from this? How does test mining further, I guess, de-risk this high grade panel?
Yeah, so I think there's two key steps that it delivers for us. The first is we've demonstrated the metallurgy at a scale of composites built from drill results. We'll now be able to scale that up and show that at a bulk mining scale what the recoveries can be and further demonstrate and de-risk the metallurgy. And the second part is there's no substitute for being in your ore body. As a platform to do infill drilling to lower the cost of that infill drilling, it makes a lot of sense from that perspective as well. So, yeah, there's no substitute for knowledge ahead of building a mine, and this is a major step towards that, or has the potential to be.
Now, the whole financing aspect of this does sound like you're looking at a non equity financing option. That simply just mean debt.
It could also mean forward sale of the gold or loans tied to gold as well. So, we all know that we're in capital constrained environments at the moment. And so it's beholden on companies to look for more inventive ways of advancing their project without blowing out our share structures. We clearly did that with the warrant incentive at the end of last year. And we think this is another clear pathway to say, we can materially advance the project without issuing more stock in the company, which is what we're all hoping for as shareholders.
All right, let's talk about some other work then that is going on this year. First and foremost, the PEA. As I said, planned for the second half of this year. That's going to incorporate that most recent resource that was announced January, just last month of this year. Again, that was focused on this high grade gold panel. What should we be watching out for when it comes to this PEA?
Yeah, it's to go back a step, it's incredible to think it's just over 10 months since we acquired Ana Paula. And last year we ticked a number of key boxes, including the resource. It's materially bigger at higher grade. We've got the 200,000 ounces at better than 10 grams as a zone to potentially start mining. We've showed that we think that it can grow a lot bigger, and we've got those much better network recovery numbers. So, we did a lot of work last year to get to this point. And the great thing about the PEA is that that will then show the economics of those improvements. So we think it's a really valuable piece that's probably the key result that we will put out this year. It will also provide all the engineering for the permit modification. We intend to reduce the size of the footprint of our existing open pit permit for underground, so we'll put that modification in and continued drilling. The resource is wide open, the parallel panel, these new zones to the north. We could do a lot of drilling. We're proposing to do 10 to 15,000 meters of drilling this year. And how much and how aggressive we are is tied to the decision we make on the decline. So we'll provide another update by the end of this quarter that will lay out exactly how aggressive we're going to get with that drilling. But lots of drilling, PEA, and now the potential to push the decline into the ore body will make a very busy year for us at Ana Paula.
So when you say it depends how aggressive you're going to get with that drilling, news release says the drill program's goals would be resource growth, infill drilling, and new exploration drilling. When you talk about how aggressive, does that tie more in with the new exploration, the infill, or the resource growth?
Particularly the exploration and the amount of rigs that we take to start. The original plan is to start with one and scale up, but there's a scenarios we're reviewing where we might bring additional rigs. So I think it makes sense for us to understand the financing options that are in front of us and then lay out that strategy in greater detail. But if anyone's followed Heliostar, we're not shy in getting on with things.
All right, Charles, that covers a lot from this news release. I will post a link to that news release. And please, anyone send me your questions, any follow-up questions you might have for Charles. I'll get him to address those in future interviews, and I'll follow up as we get more news on this potential move to test mining, how the PEA is progressing, and when we hear more about the drill program for this year. So, Charles, thank you very much for the update. I'll follow up with you soon.
Thanks for having me.